Pokemon fans really be objective about what makes a video game good? I have over 60 hours in Pokemon Legends EA, and somehow the Pokemon Company has won me back, despite the disaster that was Scarlet and Violet. Ugh. So this video is my explanation, a rambly love letter as to why. From a brand new immersive battle system that makes you feel like you're in the anime, to boss battles that are actually engaging and some of the best in the series, to a cast of characters that I actually am excited to see when they come on screen. It's got me actually to the point where I'm thinking, don't do this to me, Game Freak. Don't give me hope. However, to be totally real, for all of the positives, all the things that I love ZA4, there was a lot that it did absolutely wrong. Every positive came with a but. So if you want to see my buts, link is in the description. And while you're down there, there's a link to something else that I think you're going to absolutely love. Right now, there are a bunch of Pokemon fans who have come together to make their own RPG creature-catching 2.5D pixel art game. The sponsor of today's double review, Alestrals Awakened, and I hope they take on board some of the things I love about ZA so they can put it in their game. Now, you'll probably recognize Alestrals as the card game started by fellow YouTuber ADrive, or perhaps if you're part of my community, as the card game that my lovely partner Phoebe, my fiance, has done creature designs for. So to hear that they are working on a pixel art game featuring creatures that Phoebe has designed, like Sluggle, which is one of the creatures you can start with, it has me more than a little bit excited. And it's so gorgeous seeing it in this sort of 2.5D pixel art environment, seeing these creatures alive and thriving in the kind of world that I think Pokemon fans have been craving for a long, long time. It's set in a world of ancient Greek mythology. There are mysteries of a Titan war, and you challenge the divine, and you can collect over 100 Alestrals to construct your perfect team to challenge the divines as you see fit. You can use empowerments to interact with the overworld, ascend or nexus your Alestrals into new, more powerful forms, and even for the first time, we get to see the new awakened forms. Also joining up with ADrive and the team is Shady Penguin as the game's RPG creative director. But of course, how do you, the community, get involved? Well, right now, if you click my link at the top of the description, you'll head on over to the Alestrals Awakened Kickstarter page. The Kickstarter is running from October 14th to November the 7th, and backing is the only way to obtain alpha and beta access to this game so that you can play it early. You get to receive exclusive in-game unlocks as well as exclusive Kickstarter promo packs. There's even some options to become an NPC or a caster in the game. This is a game just being made by the community for the community. So don't miss out. You've only got until November 7th to click that link at the top of the description and become a backer today to get in on the ground level of Alestrals Awakened. And thank you to them and their Kickstarter campaign for sponsoring this video. And I really hope to the team at Alestrals, when you watch this, you take on board some of the notes I have here about the things that I loved in Pokemon Legends EA. Speaking of which, the first moment I experienced it in-game, the first time there was hope that I wasn't going to be playing the same kind of Pokemon experience as I have done a million times before. The first time that I was like, oh, fantastic, they are listening, was the first rival battle. And seriously, take this on board. When it comes to rival battles, rivals are supposed to be people that challenge us. They push us to do more and to go further, to be better than them. I think that's fundamental to even the characters of Blue and Red in the first generation of Pokemon. You pick a starter, your rival picks a starter stronger than you, and as a result, your first battle and all subsequent battles against them are a challenge. When you beat them at every single goalpost, and when you beat them as the champion at the end of Red and Blue, you feel accomplished for doing so. Yet in more recent years, for some reason, Pokemon has decided that your rival battle is supposed to be a tutorial for you. It's supposed to hold your hand as if you've never played a game before and just give you a little punching bag to show how strong you are, to give you that power fantasy. The thing about power fantasies is they're novel, they're like junk food. We want it to feel earned. It should feel earned. And so for the first time in this game, your rival sends out the Pokemon that's weak to the type of yours. And that was gutting when I saw it, and I was a little bit like, oh no. And then in addition, after you're warmed up and a little bit weakened, they send out the type that's strong against yours. This was the first moment of hope for me, and I've just got to give them big plus points for this, because I think it set the precedent for everything going forward. Speaking of which, just getting out into that tutorial area, the first kind of wild zone and exploring it for the first time, one of the things that really impressed me, especially in the early game, and it kind of sucks that this lessened later on in the game, like I said, there's a lot of buts for each of these positives, but it lessened later on in the game. But in the early game, that first wild zone, there's some rocks that are breakable. Once you work out how to break them, once you have that tool in your arsenal, there's then a pond that you can't go across. You don't need to explore any of this area. It's not mandatory. It's just an extra little place. And there's a Pichu out there in the grass. And you go, well, I can't find Pichu anywhere else. I haven't found it anywhere else yet. I want to go and get it. So how do I get over the pond? you spot a ladder and you start climbing rooftops. And it turns out there's a whole area of rooftops that are just there and ready to be explored. I dropped down and scared away the Pichu, and then I sort of thought, well, right, now I've got to come back here later because this is probably the main place to pick up this Pokemon, and then just got searching around back alleys that I didn't know I was able to do. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely boundaries to this, especially in the beginning of the game. Too many, hey, don't go over there, coming up on screen. But even within that, there was a lot to explore and enjoy. At least for a first playthrough, I felt this was like really, really exciting. The interactable environment generally though, like again, one of the biggest moments of hype was the moment I saw a pile of ice and I kind of went, ooh, I wonder what would happen if I hit that with a fire move. And it created an ice bridge. Not sure about the mechanics of that in terms of physics, but really, really cool. Like super cool to be able to access areas as the result of having access to moves, and not just any one specific move, not like a HM that you have to have Rock Smash or you have to have Ember. Any fire move will do, any water or psychic move for the sludge piles, certain moves, not 100% sure which, a lot of the physical hitting ones though mostly, that's going to deal with the boulders in your way. Getting to explore what different moves could do and how they could interact with the overworld is exactly what I want to see way more of in Pokemon. The positive but here is that, like, yeah, it's good. I just wish there was more, and I wish there was more depth to it. Like, I wish there were even bigger rocks and even bigger piles of ice and more different kinds of environment that we could interact with to kind of really get to explore and have reasons to revisit areas later on down the line. Shinies are back. Shinies are back. Shinies are back. The way that they did shiny Pokemon in Legends Arceus was basically perfect. The Pokemon spawns, you hear the noise, it's very much like, hey, there's a shiny around here somewhere. And something I really liked about the whole city environment is that actually sometimes I would hear the shiny sparkle noise go off and I wouldn't be sure quite where the Pokemon was, but I knew that it wasn't going to despawn because that's a new mechanic in it as well. Your 10 shiny Pokemon, I think there can be like 10 on the map at once, they won't despawn. So as long as you hear that noise, as long as you're in the zone, you know that it's not going to run away, it's not going to disappear, but you do have to go and find it. At one point, I came out of the door of a building, heard the noise, and had to kind of work out where it was, and it was behind the building I had come out of, so it required a whole circle around and explore. I think they're doing shiny Pokemon really, really well here. Big fan. I've got to talk about boss battles. There is a huge caveat to this that I talk about in the things I didn't like video, but the boss battles are cool and they get progressively harder as the game goes on. There are two in particular, two of the brand new unrevealed Mega Evolutions. I guess I will say them because you really shouldn't be clicking on a review if you don't want spoilers. The Mega Starmie and Mega Barbaracle, they are just absolutely fantastic to fight against. They just kind of charge around the place and throw moves at you that you don't expect. You're quite overwhelmed with what you're looking at. Now, again, the big but of this is a lot of them are battle of attrition. A lot of them are just like, oh, it's a giant meat sack that I'm just like punching, and then whittling down its health. There is usually a stage 1 to the fight and a stage 2 to the fight. I think I'd like it if there was more stages and more difficulty, but let's be real, Pokemon is never going to be Elden Ring. I kind of wish it was, though. Like, a little bit more. You're almost there with these boss battles, but they feel good. And the big caveat, that's in the other video. Okay. Death. Themes of death. Death is talked about in this game. It is kind of like there are some kind of slightly darker underlying things, much like with Legends Arceus. It's still a kid's game, but it's not treating you like you're a toddler who lives in a bouncy castle. Like, it still feels real because it feels like it's about real people in the real world. Speaking of which, the cast of characters. I have never liked a cast of characters so much in a Pokemon game. In past Pokemon games, I felt that the gym leaders are all kind of, I don't know, I guess just like carbon copies of each other, with each of them just being like, I'm the water person, I'm fireman, look how fiery I am. For the first time, and in particular with the Rust Syndicate part of the plot, I felt that the characters had depth. They had interesting writing. I mean, not for the first time, but like across the board. The entire cast. I think I like all of them, maybe for other than like one or two. Largely speaking, I really enjoyed every single character. Each of them kind of had like, not necessarily story arcs, though many of them did, but they at least had like stories and places they had come from. The world felt more lived in as a result. Speaking of which, the lore. There are so many NPCs. This was a huge criticism for me with Scarlet and Violet. The NPCs of Scarlet and Violet all say things like, hey, how are ya? Hi, fellow human. What's going on in the world? Here, for the first time, we get NPCs who have opinions about what's happening in the world. And not only that, opinions about things happening in other regions of the Pokemon world. There's actually a lot of lore information that exists not in the main story, but through the dialogue of NPCs and side missions. This is everything I've ever wanted. This is what made Gold and Silver so great. Ho-Oh and Lugia. If you've played Gold and Silver, you don't know about Ho-Oh and Lugia. They're not part of the story, but you do hear about them through NPCs who tell you about naughty children being sent to the Whirl Islands, or the bird that flew over the city 150 years ago. And now, for the first time in I don't even know how long, I need to chat to every single NPC because so many of them have opinions and thoughts about the events of Pokemon X and Y, the current events going on, the wider Pokemon world. There are timeline implications. There are rumors of events that happen in the game, which means you get different perspectives on that stuff. This is awesome. This is exactly what I want, again, as a lore enthusiast. And then there's the museum. I did an hour and a half discussion with a friend, Amaze Dragon. We've got that video just going on about the museum, what we thought was cool about the museum. Every single artifact in there felt like an artifact that belonged in the Pokemon world and made the world feel lived in and like it had history. The biggest, again, like the downside of this, I'll mention it more in the next video, is there were not enough of these opportunities in the game. There were not enough of these buildings. There was a lot of it. There's lots more than there's been in recent years, but we can go way deeper than this Pokemon. That said, I was genuinely impressed. This is one of the things that makes me love the Pokemon world. It's about the fantasy of living in that world, and that world has to feel real, and it doesn't feel real if it's populated by people that just go, hello, hey, how's it going? Actually, one of the things that really took me out of Scarlet and Violet right from the get-go is when you first walk outside your house, and obviously you see this disgusting-looking world. When you walk outside your house, there are these 3 starter Pokemon, and if you walk up to them, there's no collision. You walk through them. And I hated this. Again, it's like immersion breaking right from the get-go. This game did a really good job of, again, taking that point and like the starters, you don't do that. You don't walk through them at the beginning of the game. What else have I got written here? I'm just turning into a fun ramble because this is what I love. This is me being enthusiastic about the stuff I really enjoyed, you know? Player freedom. Why did I write that? Oh, there are great moments of player agency through the game. From at the very beginning of the game, you can try and interact with the Pancham to, you are allowed to go back to the train station at the beginning of the game, and just, if you haven't done it already, try it. See what happens. You shouldn't be able to leave the city. The whole game is set in the city. The game doesn't just put up a wall or say, no, you can't do it. The game takes itself not too seriously. And so it says, no, you can't do it, but it does it in a really fun way. There's another point later on in the story, it's quite late in the game, where there's a sort of bridge of people that you have to climb up. They show exhaustion for you climbing up them, and they talk about like how, you know, you sort of see this kind of sacrificial moment where a character kind of falls back down onto their back. But if you just jump off the rooftop, which you are totally allowed to do, and you do it multiple times, there's like extra dialogue for doing that. There's extra little moments of like fun and banter for you just kind of messing around. Having the game as a playbox. That's what Pokemon is. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun, and it feels fun. I haven't even gotten to the battle system yet. But I also want to talk about the music, which is phenomenal. For the most part. There is a caveat. Again, that's in the negatives list. The battle tracks, the just synth battle theme, the kind of like jazz style, like it's, I guess it reminds me of Cuphead, like it's very much that kind of era of music. I don't know my music that well, but dang, so many of the tracks just really hit, and I could happily listen to all the time. What else? There was the ZA Royale. The ZA Royale. At night, the ZA Royale happens. And because nighttime is on a little bit of a timer, not so much in the main game, but kind of in the main game because you want to progress the story, but in the post-game especially, that timer, the amount of points you need to hit are quite high. I don't want to waste the night. Now, you can just like, in kind of a fast travel kind of sense, you can just skip from day to night. You can just sit on a bench and move that over. I actually haven't done that once in my 40 hours of playing. The only reason I'm going to is because I think there's a challenge that makes me want to, that says like sit on a bench 3 times or something like that. But for the most part, I'm just kind of like, every time night comes up, my focus switches and I go, I have to go get those points now so that I can do as many of those battles as possible. That timer, that urgency, and the addition of the cards that give you additional points if you hit criteria while doing the battle royale, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Changes the way you engage with the game, makes it more energetic, and it actually forces me to use a lot of my healing items, because what I don't want to do is spend time running off to a Pokemon Center to heal up. I feel the urgency in the playtime to engage with battles and get as many as done as possible, which means my resources become limited, which is great. I really, really love the way they did this, and I hope to see this return absolutely in Pokemon. Customization. I think they did such a good job with customization options in this game. You can access them all pretty early. You can go off and explore the shops. I actually just kind of wish the shops updated more with more options, and I'm sure with the DLC there'll be more options, but like, I really, really enjoyed being able to customize, get my character into multiple looks, and at different story beats, I just kept swapping out between different looks that I was like, yeah, this is my early game look, this is my getting serious look, this is the end game look, and again, living the fantasy of being in the Pokemon world. It helps with immersion so very, very much. Okay, just a few more little things that I've got here. Something to do. There's always something to do. There's always something in the game that says, hey, come over here, do this, check this out, interact with this person, catch that. From completing the Pokedex to completing the wild zones themselves, the main story. In the post-game, there's a number of things that you want to do. There's all the side missions. I have some big criticisms about how it's handled. Again, all of that in the kind of negative Stinky's Butts video, but for now, like generally speaking, I like that there's always feels like there's something to do, and there's enough different things to do that my attention is constantly being grabbed over here and over here and over here. I want to check that out. I want to go over here. I want to do this. And constantly I'm being ping-ponged around the place. I currently don't feel like I'm left not wanting anything. And the last thing that I want to gush about, and by the way, all of the things here that I've said good things about, I have negatives for. They are linked in the description in the negatives video, as is, of course, today's sponsor, Elestrals Awakened, who I want to say a huge thank you to them, and I hope that they take some of the many things that I love about this game and start injecting it into that game, because I cannot wait to play again with some of Phoebe's creatures that she's like designed the art for the cards now being made real in this pixel art style. I just think it's gorgeous. So again, links to them. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video. But the big pro that is also the biggest con, and you'll understand why if you watch the other video, the battle system. The battle system, if nothing else, makes the Pokemon world feel more like the Pokemon world. Back in Pokemon Red and Blue, Pokemon had to find a way to depict the battle system that they were showing off in the manga and in the anime. And the option that they had was a turn-based battling system. I can't even begin to imagine how some kind of overworld battling system would have even worked in Pokemon Red and Blue. They couldn't do it. The problem is, as time has gone on, by the times we get to generations kind of 4, 5, 6, turn-based is beginning to feel a little dated. Now, not for like a competitive scene. Like for the competitive scene, and I think it makes total sense that they're moving that to champions. It makes sense. It's very chess-like. There's a lot of depth to double battles and doing all of that. But for the actual in-world experience of being a Pokemon trainer, I gotta say that I think the battle system got in the way of what can already be some incredibly slow games. It brings the game to a halt while you enter the battle, and then just choose your strongest move, and then hit with your strongest move, because it's not like it's challenging in the game anyway. The game is not challenging. There are some battles on the harder side, and there are definitely times that you're whittled down to, again, the resources in your bag, but I gotta say I'm a huge fan of the fact that the bag and the items and the healing items, even that's on a cooldown, even that's on a timer. I think that the battle system is so much better than turn-based for the main story of Pokemon. I also think it's more fun to actually like engage with and play as you move around the map and you try and make your Pokemon dodge incoming moves. But what I will say about it is that it needs a lot more depth. Do you know what? I'm going to go into that criticism in more depth in part 2, which of course we have to go together and take a look at my butts.